Hi, I'm Dr. Sonia Whitaker, National Education Policy Director for Push for Excellence. And on behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, we'd like to thank you so very much for giving of your gift of time and joining us here on our Saturday morning forum. We'd like to thank Word Network for bringing you to us and us to you, and yet we recognize that there are many of you that are watching us right now on Facebook Live. If you're doing so, we'd like to ask that you like our page. And for the many of you that are watching us now on YouTube Live, we'd like to ask that you subscribe to our page so that you may gain immediate access to all of the content that we have in store for you. Now, whatever you do, do not move, do not touch that dial, sit tight, because we're going to be right back. The push is on. Welcome back, and thank you so much for giving to us your gift of time. As you're aware, on Monday it will be Memorial Day, and so we here at the Rainbow Push Coalition deemed it highly appropriate to bring to the table individuals today who have been impacted by Memorial Day, the remembrance of those that have fallen, as well as families that still have to live through some of the experiences that they've had in terms of trying to deal with the loss of a loved one in this way. And so I'd like to open up by stating I am Dr. Sonia Whitaker, National Education Policy Director for Push Excel, and have the ladies here introduce yourselves to our international viewing audience.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate Memorial Day. My name is Trinity Dishman. I'm with an agency that works with helping veterans who are facing homelessness, as well as helping veterans find employment. The name of our agency is Of Colored Inc., where we assist veterans with their future.
And I'm Rochelle Crump. I'm the president and founder of the National Women Veterans United. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran, Army. And I want to remind people of what Memorial Day is really all about.
And speaking of that, let's talk about that in general, because unfortunately I sometimes feel like some of our younger folks don't really have a full understanding, to be quite frank, of why they're off school.
Absolutely.
And so for our wide variety of listeners and viewers, could you explain from your perspective what Memorial Day is really all about?
Yeah, from my perspective in particular, first of all, I think about my own family, you know, that I've lost. And then, you know, I think about how many have made the ultimate sacrifice for this nation and go unnoticed, and also, you know, forgotten a lot of times of the sacrifices that they have made just for this nation in general, and the families that still grieve them. You know, it becomes really a time that we reflect on how we got here, you know, thinking about them, the wars that they've served in, and, you know, the lives that were lost. And Memorial Day is for that purpose, pretty much, you know. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to have worked in Veterans Affairs from the city, the state, the federal, and, you know, I've seen it over and over again. We do a lot of memorials, we do parades, and we go to all of those, you know. But unless you see the faces of those women, and I'm going to speak from the perspective of women, because they're often and all the time pretty much left out of the equation of being a veteran and being accepted into that role of having served this nation.
You know, I actually want to talk more about that in just a second. I want to pull more out of you related to how women have been impacted.
Sure.
And I love the fact that you said, speaking of children not knowing about their history, I call it history, her story. But I used to teach school, and one of my assignments before Memorial Day would be to have my students know why they were off. And it's very important for us to realize, which many of African American students didn't even realize, that Memorial Day used to be called Declaration Day. And it was during the Civil War, after the Civil War, that it was called Declaration because of the freed slaves who served in the military. Just take that in. The freed slaves who served in the military then, during the Civil War, were the beginning of what's called Memorial Day today. So again, I taught my children or students to always remember why you are celebrating something. And this was one of the poignant days that we were celebrating, to know why they would be off on this special day.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Can I ask what is occupying the greatest majority of your thinking as it relates to this topic in particular? I know you alluded to women in particular. Can you
Well,
elaborate on
and
that?
I don't want to just say just women also, because for years, women weren't really standing out to be veterans. They didn't feel comfortable, and they didn't really know that they served, actually. A lot of times, they wouldn't even identify as a veteran. So over those years, I've had the privilege and the, priority of males as well to make sure that they understand the roles that women have actually played during that time, and those that have actually died for this country too, because they are the unknown population that basically is forgotten, and that's how I came out of that role. But it's always been about males. So that's why when I have something to, contribute, it's always about the women, because
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's males. And we're always, no one is going to walk up to us and ask if we are a veteran. But usually the males, they kind of perceive that they served in the military, and or they're going to wear their gear or a hat or something to identify. And I'm pushing women in that role now. I always have something on that shows that you are a veteran, so you don't get left out of the process. But that
Right.
doesn't work either, because sometimes they want to know, did your father serve, or did you,
I got it.
Yeah.
So help me understand. I'm asking because I'm genuine when I say I don't understand, right? When you say that the women are hesitant to share, if you could share one or two reasons in particular as to why they would be hesitant to share, I think it would be great for our viewing audience to know.
A lot of it is because they don't feel that they've served a lot of times. They don't see their role as being important, because that's how they have been treated like that all these years.
Okay.
So a lot of times it's I served, and it's in a low tone, you know what I'm saying? And not in the way that women serve. But when they see, for example, our organization, the National Women Veterans United, you'll see all of us dressed alike, and then it's like, oh, who are you all? Where did you come from? And then we get the applaud for it. It's like they never saw or even contemplated that women served in the military.
Wow.
And
would
it's
you like to
also
add
the
that?
language. It's the language that we have in our history today. With the war, we say servicemen. We say thank you for your service. And the language that many of them are seeing is that they're being a little devalued, because they're saying thank you for your service, or they're assuming that just because you were a man, you may have served during the Vietnam War. And my father served during the Korean War. And those were during times for people of color in particular, very trying. We went over to another country to fight, but yet we were still fighting our struggles and barriers here. I have women veterans that I work with right now that they don't identify as a full military service person, because their fellow comrades may have not shown them that they were worthy, or that they are Air Force, Navy, Marine. Air Force, Navy, Marine, Army, reserves, you're still a veteran. Whether you're a male or a female, you're still a veteran. But many of the women do not identify as being called veterans, because they weren't given the opportunity to be represented. When you speak about the Vietnam War in particular, there were 11,000 volunteers. Volunteers are service female veterans who were serving over there. They identify as nurses. They identify as one of our beautiful people who just expired or took her last breath was an Air Force person, Air Force Patricia Patty Keir. She shared with me that she was over in Vietnam and Thailand, and she was a radio announcer. She shared with me that she would be on the radio saying, "This is Sweet Patty Keir's." Some military person during those times heard her voice of comfort. She was a service person under Air Force that wasn't recognized as a combat person. And that's something that I think Veteran Crump could speak about, is the difference between combat and also serving?
Well, absolutely. You know, the same thing in our organization. We have women who have served land, air, and sea. And so, you know, what they have done has been amazing along the way, you know, and a lot of them are the first at different, you know, perspectives.
Sure.
And when you look at it from that lens and you see, just like you said, Patty being in Vietnam and being a nurse, there were others too.
Sure.
There were not just nurses. They were not just the role of the
Radio
media.
announcer.
Yes, absolutely. They were actually people who were keeping records as well, and they were there.
Right.
You know, we can't just dismiss it because they weren't on the battlefield per
Yeah.
se, that they were not worthy enough to be actually.
I think that's an important point
Yeah,
that you make
absolutely.
too. I think sometimes we have a tendency to generalize the role of those that served during that time.
Absolutely.
And underestimate, be it male or female, the significance of their contribution. My father is retired now from the United States Air Force, but he joined the Air Force during the Vietnam War as an aircraft mechanic. There were places the Air Force did not go without him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So significant.
Yes.
So I think, so yeah, I get a warm place inside when I think about how many roles were significant during that time frame.
And that's great when you say thank you for your service.
That's sincere, yeah.
Thanking you for your service is not gender. Thanking you for your service is not just military. And these men and women during, unfortunately, we're celebrating Memorial Day, many of them gave the ultimate service, which were their lives. We celebrate Memorial Day, but we also celebrate Veterans Day. The significance behind Memorial Day is that people gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms and our liberty and our pursuit of happiness.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, Memorial Day is for our freedom, our pursuit of happiness, and also to thank those who are still today struggling to identify with.
Right, but let me just
As,
say,
I was gonna
this.
say, as we pivot to the closing, I want to have you give some final remarks.
Yes, I would just like to say we honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice by taking care of those who are still here who need us the most.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And I'm still available because in honor of my father, as I stated, there was over 82 veterans, probably a little bit more, find housing and employment. That's so important. In today's
well.
market, a veteran should not be sleeping in their car. A veteran should not be asking for help when they have given 8, 10, 15, or even 12 years of their lives.
Which is going to be another part of the conversation that is going to be had today. And so I'd like to thank you ladies for joining us and for contributing your experiences and your thoughts and understandings about Memorial Day. And what we want to do is to ask you to sit right there. We'll be right back with more information related to this topic. And speaking of content, we can't do this without you. We need your support. In fact, we've made it really easy for you to give. You can simply take that cell phone of yours and hold it to the QR code on the screen and give right on the spot. Or you can take that same cell phone and simply text the word PUSH to 41444. Text PUSH to 41444. You may also elect to go to our website at rainbowpush.org and click on the donate button.